Richard Skipper celebrates. Every show is a celebration. Each show, Richard delivers the artists you love, showcasing what makes them unique. Never gossipy. The antidote to a sometimes hectic world. Now, here's your host, Richard Skipper.
Happy Thursday, everyone, and welcome to Richard Skipper Celebrates. For those of you who are returning, welcome back. And for those of you who are here for the first time, this show is all about celebrating artists and their body of worth. And I am so excited about tonight's guest. I have known Reverend Yolanda for more years than I can remember. As a matter of fact, I hope that Reverend Yolanda can help me remember when, where, and how we met. Because Reverend Yolanda is just that rare light that you find in the world who walks, talks, eats, and breathes positivity, goodness, and light. And that's what this show is all about in the first place. Well, tonight we're going to be talking about Reverend Yolanda's latest project, which is called Queero. And before I bring Reverend Yolanda on and we learn all about the evolution of Reverend Yolanda and what's ahead in 2021, take a good look at this clip. We'll be on the other side.
I knew a girl, they called her Queero. She was my friend, she was my shero. We would proclaim that we were witches, and we cast spells on bullies and bitches. We'd say, burn away my shame, burn away my pain. I am Queero. Junior high, she became a cheerleader, and I became the one who was queerer. And when everyone else was embarrassed of me, Queero became family. We'd say, burn away my shame, burn away my pain. I am Queero. The pain of losing Queero was too much, but the memory of our friendship made me strong to face my hardships for many years to come. My Facebook searches found a woman who grew from that girl. I finally felt her loving embrace at my mother's funeral. She's still my friend. She's still my hero. Living in our hometown, she fights for rights for all of us queeros. We still cast spells on bullies and bitches, 'cause me and Queero, we're powerful witches. And we say, burn away, I say, burn away our pain. We are Queero. We are Queero.
Wow. Have I told you how much lately that I love you? I know. You fill my soul with so much warmth. When I even to think of you, I mean, this is a long way from Muscle Shoals, Alabama.
It most certainly is.
Yeah, weird. You know, I hope, or maybe I will slip into my
I was
southern
just going to
accent.
say, and South Carolina, right? I mean, like.
Yeah, I'm from South Carolina. You're from Alabama.
Yeah.
Before we jump into this, I begin all my shows because we are in the midst still, even though some people don't think we are. We are still in the middle of a major pandemic. And how are you dealing really with everything?
Wow, that's a hello. That's a big question.
That's how we're starting today.
Exactly. No, it's good. I expected it, and each of us are dealing in different ways, right? So what I've been so actually, burn away our shame, burn away our pain, right? I am Queero. We are Queero. I mean, it's a thing. So what I'm saying about that is, I feel like we're living in a time of authenticity, right? You have to. We're finding out who each other really are, who we really are.
That's amazing. Absolutely. Amen to that.
And we're doing things about that, right? So some of us are growing in certain ways, and others of us are not growing in certain ways. And it's all
interesting. I don't want to get political, but
yeah.
I'm going to get political for a moment, because I saw a tweet today and it said, name one positive thing that the president of the United States has done over the past 4 years. And we're not going to spend the evening talking about him, because this is not about him.
No.
But I said he pulled the drapes open.
Yeah.
And revealed who this country truly is. And I heard someone saying last night, this is not America. This is not America. This is not America. And I went, yes, this is America.
Yes, it is. Yeah. See, that's the thing. We have to, this was the thing. Like, we can either choose to really look at what's really, really happening and what's really going on. And I've appreciated your posts over this year. You've been very honest and straightforward with people and giving information.
Please understand that when I post something, everyone, it's what I'm feeling at that moment.
Exactly.
And I know that some people are upset by that. And I respect what everyone is feeling, because all of us are the product of where we came from.
Absolutely, right? And so it's up to us to face the challenges and either grow from those challenges or stagnate, And to me, that's what's really been up for me. So I have approached the year as a learning situation. I really, really have. And I've chosen to to interact more deeply with my community. Like Glenn and I really am, for those that don't know me, I really am a reverend. My name really is Yolanda. I'm not creating a character called Reverend Yolanda. I am Reverend Yolanda, you know. So anyway, we have a church. We've had a church for a long time. It's called Church with a 2-Drink Minimum. Yes, that's
I
weird.
love.
But yes, it's a church. And we have a Wednesday night, service that we do. And we've been doing for 10 years, almost 12 by this time, you know what I mean? So we have a community, we have a group of people that want to grow spiritually and interact and make a positive impact on the world, right? And so we've been really interacting with each other, and people out there are welcome to come, do this with us. Just email me, yolanda@yolanda.net. I'll send you the info. But however, we're creating a community that responds to each other's needs, right? So when I just realized this today, like when I don't, so my personal, situation certainly as an artist is all over the place financially a lot of times, you know what I mean? However, I realized that I have certain advantages that I can share with other people that don't have at this particular moment, right? So we've been able to give to others in our community in a very substantial way that's been helpful to them and to our lives too, so it's been an incredible year of finding out what you really can do as neighbors. And I have a lot of hope for 2021. I have a lot of hope for the future. I'm really seeing that community is important,
Amen. Amen.
Yeah. And
well, I look at this year, and I've said this before, as a pause. I think it's a time for all of us to pause and think about what we had, what we have, and what we desire in our lives. And I have been getting rid of a lot of the negativity that's out there because I don't want it in my life. Right. And there are a lot of people, I received a nasty letter in the mail this week. And the letter came out of left field. It was referring to something from 10 years ago. And my heart sank.
I know. I'm laughing because I've had a similar experience recently. And
it's the same person. But and my husband Danny said, that's a sick person. Let it go. And I ripped the letter up, I threw it in the garbage, and I let go. And there are these, I call them triggers that are out there that want to grab us and bring us down when everything seems to be going in our lives. And right now, this has been, for myself, I'm busier than I've ever been in my life. And I'm a recluse, it's not what I am. But I want to go back. To Muscle Shoals, Alabama. Do you mind if we go there?
Oh, I love Muscle Shoals. I have a real healing now with Muscle Shoals, with my hometown. I really do.
Well, I want to go there because for me, and I've done this with other guests that I've had on the show, I want to go back to your 5-year-old authentic self. Oh. To me, the 5-year-old self is that time before school starts, before the layers of society start coming down on us. Tell us who you were at 5 years old.
Wow, I remember this very clearly. I was in my bedroom, and the walls were painted yellow, and I was looking out the window. It was a beautiful spring day or some kind of like that, and there was a tree outside of my window, and I sat there and watched a bird alight on that tree limb, and I experienced God. Now, how corny does that sound? But that, I remember that, and then
what was it about that moment that you feel that you experienced God?
Everything felt like it was supposed to be that way. Like there was no, where's mommy? Where's this? I'm hungry. There was like, it was my first conscious sensation of being absolutely in the most perfect, place at the most perfect time, And I equated that with the presence of God. Like that's how I look at it now. Like I don't know if I had that word for it. I mean, I was raised in a good Christian home. We went to church every Sunday, so I'm sure I had been like.
Well, I was going to ask you, tell us a little bit about your parents, and do you have brothers and sisters?
Yeah, I do. Well, let me. This is funny because my mom and dad were celebrities in our hometown. So it's a music town. Everybody's in the music, involved in the music business in some way or another. All of my, kids that I grew up with everybody's involved with the music business, So dad was a radio and television personality, and mom was his sidekick and an acclaimed Southern beauty. You know what I mean? That perfect Southern beauty. So they were quite a pair, and everybody knew them, of course, and so that put the spotlight on my brother and I. And my brother was a star athlete. Now I was a big old queer, like outing myself in the 4th grade. And so there was.
And how did you out yourself in the 4th grade? We're not going to gloss over that.
Well, the story, this is an odd memory too, but you can actually Google it and find out that it's true. Okay, so there was a Time magazine article when I was in the 4th grade. There's a Time magazine article. Well, it was the cover story. It said homosexuality in America. And I mean, like, I'm emphasizing it because it was like big red letters, and this gray background with some lonely guy walking the dark street, like it was a very, retro. And, but I was reading about it. It's the first time I'd ever heard about that word or anything, and I was always reading Time magazine. So I read this article and it just lumped everybody together. There were, it didn't single everybody out, gays, lesbians, I just called everybody a homosexual, right? And so they were talking about club life in New York and San Francisco and everything. And I just felt so excited about that. I was like, wow, that's me.
Thanks for the article, Time magazine.
Yeah. So I went to school and told everybody, and that was not.
Did you have any frame of reference as to what that even meant?
Sort of, because I knew that, I was different than my brother and my father. I was more like my mother than I was like my brother and father. However, it didn't confuse me. It was natural. But they confused me because they didn't recognize that in me. You know what I mean? So I was being punished for being, who I am, sissy faggy.
Were you being punished for being who?
Well, not by my parents per se. However, my experience, that's what Queero is all about. My experience at.
We'll talk about it a little later.
It's just so funny that we're talking about this because
I want to stop for just a moment.
Okay.
2 things that jump out at me. Number one, I saw a cabaret show many, many years ago at Don Tomama. And the performer on the show talks about going to school the first day of school and taking his doll with him. And the teacher pulling him aside and saying, "You boys don't play with dolls." And he thought, there's something wrong with my parents. Yeah. Because my parents never said that there was anything wrong with me playing with dolls.
Exactly.
And, and even at that moment, he said, I didn't think there was anything wrong with me. There must be something wrong with my parents.
Hello.
And I also saw a story on 20 years ago where they took little boys and girls and they put them in a room, and some of the boys wanted to play with the dolls and some of the girls wanted to play with the G.I. Joes and the trucks and those things. Mm-hmm. And it truly, at that point, those things have nothing to do with sexuality.
Hello. Yeah. Exactly. The things are, they're intertwined. However, they're different aspects, your sexuality and your gender identity or your queerness or however, so for me, it took many, many, many years to understand myself. And so even when I was doing Reverend Yolanda's Old Time Gospel Hour, the shows there, I was still figuring it out. That whole monologue that I was, working on that explained my names, and I had a little, story for each name, because my full legal name is Yolanda Roger Anthony Mapes. I've kept my my birth name, because I don't want to throw anything away. I'm just bringing everything under
So
the.
did you grow up as Roger?
I grew up as Tony.
Tony.
Anthony, yeah, but they call me
Roger Anthony. It's Roger Anthony Mapes.
right. Roger Anthony Mapes is my
When
birth.
your mom or dad got upset with you or angry with you, was it Roger Anthony?
No, it was always Tony. Yeah. They were but see, I liked the name Tony because it sounded feminine to me. You know what I mean? So I didn't even think of my own name. I didn't think of it as Anthony. I just only thought of myself as Tony. And to me, that was a feminine name.
How did Yolanda come into being?
Well, me and my cousin were living in New York City in 1989. I mean, I moved here in 83, but my cousin moved here in 86. So we had this whole long history. But my cousin and I used to love to watch the lottery, with Yolanda Vega.
Yes. Danny keeps saying, wouldn't it be great if you could interview Yolanda Vega?
Oh my God.
She's such a part of our new, I came to New York in 79.
Absolutely. Oh, okay. Yeah. So exactly. Yes. You've lived through all of this exactly. So, I loved it. And so we had a party, and it was the first time that I was ever going to be in drag. I finally decided, okay, I'm going to allow myself to do this, right? So, and I didn't look very good because I wasn't good at it. So I didn't make up, and it was all bad, But just because we loved Yolanda Vega, the first thing my cousin said to me was, "Here's Yolanda," you know what I mean, like that. And it just felt right. It felt right. I was like, that's my name.
It's amazing, those moments in our lives where everything feels right. But I want to go back to fourth grade. I'm transfixed there for a moment.
Fourth grade was a big year for me. Big.
And when you came into school and you said, "This is who I am," I can only imagine what the other kids' reaction to you was in school, and the teachers.
Yeah, the teachers mainly was the worst part of it. I got sent to the principal's office, and they called my parents. And like I said, my parents were well known in the town, and it was very embarrassing for me and for them and for everybody involved. My brother, like he just wouldn't have anything to do with me at school or any, really, like I was ostracized. And then Queero came along, like my friend that became my friend. And they called her Queero, and it was so weird. I was like, that must be because she's my friend. You know what I mean? We never really figured it out, but she didn't protest it. She didn't resist. She just accepted me and loved me, and people could call her anything they wanted. And she just loved me, and, luckily they lived in my neighborhood across the way and up the street a little. And so, I was a regular at their house, and we created what we call the Witch Club. And so
was she out and open about?
No, she's not queer. She's not queer. She's a straight woman.
How did you get that name then?
I think it's because she was associating with me, and we just rolled with it, she was like, I am queer, I am Queero. We are queer, because see, we really did identify as witches. Like we became witches, we were very like reading about witchcraft or any of the YA stories and watching, Bewitched and all of that. But we were serious about it. We were like, we're witches, Now,
as you were becoming friends, excuse me for interrupting.
Yeah,
this relationship that you have, were you honest and open with her and saying, this is who I am and this is what I'm about? Yeah. It's very interesting. When I was in school, and I went back years ago to my hometown to do, when I was performing as Carol Channing, I went back to perform, and they interviewed kids that I went to school with, now adults. And one person that I went to school with said, in our school, we had the rich kids, we had the poor kids, we had the farm kids, we had the city kids, we had the bookworms, we had the kids that never opened a book, and then there was Ricky. Because, I mean, I have to be honest with you. I did not know that I was gay. Full disclosure, everyone, tonight. Until after I moved to New York. I was like 21 years old. But to have this knowledge at such an early age that, well, this is who I am, I can't even imagine what that was like in Muscle Shoals, Alabama.
Well, yeah, it wasn't very. So it was odd because actually, when I've been talking to my cousins today, it's my aunt's 92nd birthday.
God bless her.
I know, I'm so happy for her. And what I realize now is that I actually did have a lot of support under me. Now, the bullying at school was intense and it was bad. And it was instigated by the principal. I always have to say this because that's the difference between then and now, right? The principal of the school would call me fag and sissy and queer and all of that in front of the other people.
I was going to say, and this is the interesting thing about being a bullied kid. I was bullied as well.
Of course.
Most of the bullying comes from the adults. And the adults, I mean, what I kept being told was learn to fight back.
Right.
Fight back. And that's not who I am.
Yeah, that's not who I am either. Like, so that had no relevance to me. All I could see was like, you people are sick. There's something wrong with you. There's nothing wrong with me.
Mm-hmm.
However, I did have to find a way to fit into existence in, that scenario so that I can survive, So like, I didn't understand it all. I just knew that I was really, really different. I didn't have any words for trans or transfemme genderqueer, which I like to say for myself now. I had no clue how to talk about that. I just assumed, I guess I was some kind of male because I have a male body and all of that, but I sure don't feel like that. I sure don't feel like a male, So that's what I carried with me. But I had to, practice, and be a part of society and date girls and go here and go there and be, Tony Mapes, So it took me all the way through college and moving to New York City in 1983.
And where did you go to college?
Well, I went to the University of North Alabama, and then I went to the University of Memphis, and that was lovely. That's where I got my master's in oral interpretation of literature. So what I had a interest in expertise in at that point was interpreting, straight out literature and performing it for stage, and it was with all the with the ands and the connector words and everything in it. And it was a very interesting craft, so I got a master's in it and I thought it was cool. And so after that, I moved to New York City, and I actually went to AMDA first when I first landed into New York City to sort of.
I want to go back for a moment before you got to New York. When you went away to college, did your life change at all, or was it?
Yes.
It did.
Well, let me tell you. So I'm in college. This is undergrad, and then grad was even better, but undergrad. So I'm in college. I get rushed by Sigma Chi, right? So I get rushed. I join Sigma Chi. I get the cutest big brother you have ever seen, honey. Cute. Looks like my husband now. Like blonde hair.
The man that you have as a husband.
Oh, my wonderful man. Yeah. But anyway, so, I fell in love with my big brother. Like, please, like, who wouldn't? So that was a problem, though.
I ask, was that reciprocated or was that an issue?
Well, it wasn't reciprocated for the first couple of years, but then it happened. And that was dramatic. Like, he was the first person I ever had sex with. Ever. And I was 20 something by then, because I was a good Christian boy. I was raised as a Christian boy, and I didn't, have sex or do anything. And and then I met this guy, and guess what his name is. Glenn, just like my husband.
Well, I want to ask you. I mean, you're discovering who you are as you're growing older, and obviously, I'm from the South, and I know what that's like. But Christianity has a completely different take on all of this. And you come from a Christian household. Were there? I mean, did you grapple or wrestle with who you were becoming with your religious beliefs?
Yeah, I mean, because that was pretty much the only thing I knew, at the time. However, what happened was I sort of worked it out through playing music, you know what I mean? So I learned how to play the guitar and everything at church. And then the music minister was this young, beautiful guy. Again, it's like I was drawn to, this guy. And but he was a wonderful music minister, and he really gave me a goal in life. I decided that I wanted to be a music minister, which finally, full circle, here we are. But
now, did you always want to be in the ministry?
I did, from that moment on, from when I was about 16 or 17, after I met Lindsay, because his music ministry was so real and so touching and so personal to me. And he knew that I had a crush on him, right? But he didn't reject me or say anything or didn't criticize me or God doesn't like that, none of that, you know what I mean? So even though the church itself was a strict, no gay is allowed kind of church, he himself was not that way, and I never know. I didn't know what happened to him. Maybe he was gay. Possibly he was gay. So a lot of music ministers in Christian churches are certainly gay. As you, I'm sure, know.
Yes, I know. Hi, everybody. But
it's not a big secret, really. But
no. Then you came to New York in 1983. Why New York?
Well, I'd always wanted to live in New York. Dad, like I said, was a local television radio celebrity, and he was an NBC affiliate. And so they actually asked him to move to New York, and he was trying to figure that out. We were going back and forth to New York a lot during that period of time.
You lived in New York prior to moving here.
Exactly, yeah. And I knew I could handle it. Like, I didn't know what I was getting into, right? But I knew I could handle it, and I did, of course. But it wasn't that big of a shock to me. It was something that I had always wanted to do, So
and New York was a very different New York in 1983 than it is now.
Was. Oh my God.
But
what part were you in Manhattan at that time? I'm sure you were.
Well, when I first came to New York, my first apartment was at 86 and 2nd. It's a long story that I'll share with you over cocktails sometime.
Yeah.
So you did you come with your cousin to New York?
Well, I came first and then he came. And this is also an amazing story because his career trajectory turned into training under Eileen Ford, and so he became a talent scout for Ford Modeling, and then that's a whole nother story. But we had such a great time in the 80s, you know what I mean? And we were young, and we had we were sexy, and we wanted, and it was AIDS. I mean, we moved here right then, and we were young and horny and cute, and we were going to do everything, and we did do everything.
Here to death. It was a scary time.
It was a very scary time, and I'm HIV positive as a result, So from the get-go, when I moved to New York, I had to hit the ground running and sort of just all this new information. It was, first time I'd ever really been active in a open and out LGBTQ community. It was AIDS at the same time. I was young and sexy. There was all these guys, and like all this information. What am I gonna do with all of this?
Well, I want to talk about the little steps that of building a life here in New York. Where did you first live when you first came to New York?
Well, I first lived on Columbus Avenue, actually, and around, I think it was 83rd.
And how did you find the apartment?
Well, it was very different, at that time. The neighborhood was, transitional, as they say, I suppose. So we lived in a noisy building with a tiny little, and I lived in a tiny, tiny, tiny little sliver of a room. And then my roommates and I didn't get along very well, so I left and I moved in with on 47th Street between 9th and 10th, which was way different back then too,
I lived on 47th Street between 9th and 10th. We were probably passing each other all the time. Oh my God. I always used to say that if I could walk right through the back wall of Don't Tell Mama, I could walk right into my apartment.
Oh my God.
Yeah. Between 8th and 9th. It was 8th and 9th that I lived on.
8th and 9th, yeah. Isn't that amazing? Yeah, we very well could have been passing each other on the street because,
You said earlier that you went to AMTA. I mean, were you going to pursue a career as an entertainer, as an actor, as a singer?
Yes. So, college. So college, I came out because of my love relationship with my, Sigma Chi brother and all of that. And it got to be hairy and I was very involved in religious things on campus, and then I had to stop being involved in religious things. So I became a musical theater major, and my intent was to move to New York City and, be a musical theater actor. So I went to AMDA to get my feet wet and try to, figure out the world. And I graduated, and then I started auditioning, and I didn't like it. I just didn't like it. Like there was no place for me. Like I was too femmy. I had a Southern accent. I couldn't pull off the leading man thing. I would have, none of that.
With me for just a moment. Those feelings that you were having, were those feelings that you imposed on yourself, or were you being told these things by the casting directors?
Well, I was being told these things. However, it just reinforced my own insecurity, and dissolved my sort of drive to do it. You know what I mean? And I was also living in the East Village, and I was seeing many exciting performers create their own works, and so I began to that inspired me, and so I began to do that, write my own work and produce things. And I was never I didn't have any big successes, but it was the same time Charles Busch was doing all that stuff, and Vampire Lesbians of Sodom, and the Ridiculous Theater Company.
You also lived on 47th Street, so you were in very close proximity to Don't Tell Mama.
That's right. I performed with Don't Tell Mama early on, yeah.
Don't Tell Mama, but there was also Mildred Pierce's, which was just a few doors over from Don't Tell Mama. And I will say this to everyone who doesn't remember what Don't Tell Mama was at that time. It was also a neighborhood bar.
It was so fun. Yeah. I think that's the first place I got drunk in New York. Like when we were.
And you remember it. That's the good news.
When we were still in college and I was with my, my Sigma Chi boyfriend, we would come to New York to go to the theater like people do, on spring break. And our first trip together in New York, we went to Don't Tell Mama, and me and Glenn sat there and drank one of those Irish Bailey, Irish cream, drinks until we both got blitz drunk, and we stumbled out of Don't Tell Mama and just, we're singing and laughing on the street, and it was pure joy,
When you decided that that an actor was not for you, was it an easy thing to let go of? Or
no, I thought that that's what I was supposed to do. You know what I mean? But thankfully, I had so much roots in music that my songwriting became a way for me to work through those feelings, and I actually did get signed to Chrysalis Records as a recording artist. And I was so thrilled, and that was when I moved to the East Village and when I started doing, and started performing at CBGBs and stuff like that, you know. So I created a world where I began to consider myself a songwriter, which is great because that really led me to my heart and soul's passion, you know, which is what I do today.
And when, where, and how did you put your first cabaret show together?
Oh, wow. My first cabaret show came because I took a class with, she was in, the Nonsense. She was the original cast member of Nonsense. Anyway, she gave a cabaret class at Don't Tell Mama. And, you know, after the, you know, the class, and you'd have a showcase and da-da-da. And so that was my first time doing a cabaret show in New York City. It was with Samina De Laurentiis.
Oh my God, Samina, yes.
Yes. So that's the first time I ever sang it, Don't Tell Mama, and I was like, oh, this'll work. I can do things here, you know. And so then I had a friend from Memphis who had moved up here before me, and we were good friends at the time. He was also a singer and everything. And so we created an act called Mapes and Granger. And, you know, we had our press shots taken together, and we were, you know, being all cute with each other and all that stuff.
I seem to remember that. It's like there somewhere. So what was the reception like your first time, and how did you find your audience the first time out?
Oh, the very first time we did a cabaret show. Well, actually, that, you know, was always the hardest part, you know, about it, is getting. But we actually had a pretty good following, kind of from the get-go. Like,
and did he book you? Sidney Meyer book you there?
Yes, it was so crazy. I've never talked to him about this lately, but I don't even know if he would remember me because I looked so different, and I was calling myself Tony Mapes, and I don't even know if he would remember it or not, you know. But we had a lot of good friends. We, being both Southern transplants from the same area, there were a lot of people that we knew up here in the theater world sort of already, you know, and things like that, that were being actors and things and enjoying New York City life. So we actually didn't do too badly. You know, we had a little run there, and Mapes and Granger was a thing for like a little while, you know, and that was fun. But what it did was it really sparked the bug in me that I could create my own you know, media, my own.
Your choice to move on solo?
Yes. I didn't do too much. Let's see, after that, I moved. After that particular thing with Mapes and Granger is when I got signed to Chrysalis Records, and then we were working, you know, then I was working as, thinking of myself as a recording artist. And so I spent that time, those next few years until about 1990, working on dance music, you know, trying to be a dance music artist. Mm-hmm. And that story got really kind of fun too, you know, because I met Larry Flick, who was a Billboard music editor, and he fell in love with my song "We Are Angels." And so, see, I wrote that a long time ago, and he was trying to manage me for a while, and so it was a whole thing, you know, about me being in the recording sort of world. And then I moved to Vermont. So that like was life-changing. And when
why did you leave New York to go to Vermont?
Well,
you fell in love with someone, didn't you?
I'm sorry?
You fell in love with someone, didn't you?
That's usually the way my life goes, yes.
Yeah. Oh my God.
But actually, it was a group of people. I fell in love with the Radical Fairies, which I know you know of, and we were creating a communal living situation in Vermont, and I wanted to be a part of that. So I left New York and moved to Vermont and became a part of that community, and it was really wonderful. It was the best thing that ever happened to me, really, and because that's where, you know, Yolanda really became my name, you know, and people would call me Yolanda, and without thinking about it, and it wasn't weird, and I could wear clothes and makeup and wigs and dresses if I wanted to or not, or didn't. It didn't matter. I could do any of the above, you know, but people call me Yolanda, and it felt right, you know. And so here's my my gut feeling again. When I feel right, I feel like I'm in sync, with God, or sacred mystery, as I like to say. So,
I like that.
That really was the next huge major shift for me. And then, but I still couldn't understand my relationship to the trans world. I knew that I wasn't a woman, straight up a woman, but I also knew that I wasn't straight up a man either. You know what I mean? So at the time, in the early 90s, we were just beginning to create words to describe all the in between, and so I used to call myself in Vermont the transgender warrior, and because I was discovering things about myself, and it was just a lovely, lovely, lovely time. And I created a band called Yolanda and the Plastic Family, and we had a lot of great success. And then CBGB's was doing a night called Homocore, which was it was a queer music night at CBGB's. And it had a whole bunch of crazy downtown people, doing their thing at CBGB. So I got invited to come be a part of that. And so I was traveling back and forth, from Vermont to New York. And in 2001, I said, well, let me just move back and see what Yolanda can do in New York, because I hadn't been Yolanda in New York. I was Tony in New York, So I came back in 2001.
Is that easy to come back and Yolanda without knowing you as Tony?
Some people had a real hard time with it, but mostly, well, that's another twist in the road too. It's part of the story of my names, because each name sort of has a different chapter in my life. And a really weird turn took place around 2006. I came back from Vermont. I was being Yolanda. Everything was going amazing. I had this show with Hedda Lettuce. We called it the Dixie Chicks with Dicks, and we had just a great time. I was doing really great. I got signed by another record label, and I put a whole bunch of hopes into like this being the thing, you know what I mean? And it wasn't, and it crashed and it folded. And we did this amazing record called Abolitious, which was a whole bunch of New York drag queens at the time singing ABBA songs, and it was an amazing thing. And the whole thing came crashing to the ground, because at the same time we were releasing Abolitious, Mamma Mia was coming out on Broadway, right? So it was just like, girl,
detour,
knocked it all out of the water. And I was so crushed. I was just like, oh my God. I was crushed. I was like, I'm done. I'm not going to perform again. I'm done. And that was the time that I met my husband. Like, he went through this with me, and I took on the name Roger. I became Roger. I'm like, I'm going to be a completely different person. Nobody will ever know me. And I became Roger, and I started a life here in New York as Roger, and I was masculine. I grew up my beard, and
That's how I first met you.
Right, exactly. Mm-hmm. And so that was a life that where I was trying to deny everything. It started with, I'm so disappointed in this record thing. I'm just gonna.
Well, I want to
do
it before we run out of time.
Right.
And I mean, I could spend hours with you. But I want to ask you a question, and then I want to get to Queero, because we've got to get that in.
Okay.
When you became your authentic self, don't you find that that's when everything fell into place for you? Because
Absolutely.
you are well known in New York, you are well respected in New York, you are loved in New York. So don't you feel that all happened when you said, "This is who I am"?
Absolutely. And that's why I say the Old Time Gospel Hour was me. I'll never forget it, because the community, the MAC community, wow.
Manhattan Association Cabaret, for those who don't know.
Yes.
uh, and we're going to have to get to Queero, but
Yeah.
before we get there, do you think that Yolanda could have blossomed in Muscle Shoals, Alabama, the way that Yolanda blossomed in New York?
It would be different, but yes, I do think it could have happened, you know. Um, when I was talking to my aunt today, and once again, it's her birthday, 92 years old.
God bless
God bless her, is right. She said to me, I don't care, meaning she loves me, you know. I don't care who you are. You're mine. I love you. And my cousin came to the phone and said, I love you, you know? And what I realized, and then I talked to Queero, my friend Queero, on Facebook all the time. And then, you know, I talked to Queero's daughter. And
I want to have you back with Queero together.
oh God, I would love that if she would
No,
appear.
no, you
I
reach out
know.
to Queero. I want to have you back for part 2, but we need to get there for a moment. And there's so
Yes.
many stories that I want to share. But Queero, the book, which you've got now, hold up the book, is this book.
It's so cute.
They come with the book.
Well, so no, they're separate. However, like, if you want a copy of the book, buy it, email me, I'll send you a free copy of the song. That's how I'm doing it right now. They're from different they're from different companies. So to order the book and then just send me a, email on my website. It's very easy to contact me and say, I just bought Queero. Can you send me the song? And I will.
Yeah. Is the book selling for?
It's $19. And it's on Lulu. It's on the Lulu. But if you go to yolandananda.net, yolandananda.net, or yolanda.net, you can see it there. It'll pop right up, and you can see all the information, because it's my pride and joy right now.
Now, did this? Were you working on this prior to the pandemic, or did this happen during the pandemic?
Yeah, well, both and. So we started the CD Yolanda Nanda in 2019, and then, here we are, and then here we were. So Queero, the vocal just made it under, like, cut. We did it right before the pandemic, so I had that done. But we put all the arrangements and the music together, this year. And when I released Yolanda Nanda, the whole CD, I had been preparing for it for about a year already, so it was easy enough to put together. I had to take one trip to Manhattan to do some vocals, and mask and cover and all the things that we have to do in the studio. But it came together fairly well because we had so much work done on it already, So Queero I was so proud of, because it's the story. It's an anti-bullying story, which is what I like to say, and an ode to LGBTQAI allies. What is becoming so profound to me is our connection to each other, and how much community is important. And so
I want to mention something, excuse me, that a lot of people may not be aware of, but you and I both are aware of this. Bullying is such a massive part of our culture in this country. When you think about reality-based television, every reality-based show is about bullying. That's someone's going to get kicked off the island. Someone is going to, my cupcake is better than your cupcake. I'm a better singer than you are. It's all about one-upmanship. And
I know.
the competitive world that we put out there. And these messages are being presented on a daily basis. And of course, where we started, we've seen bullying in action over the past 4 years on a level that I have never seen in my entire life.
That's why, I really want to talk about these things. Like, it's good to know the landscape, right? It's good to know the landscape. It's good to know where we are, so we can do something about it, and so we can be rise higher is how I was saying it, so we can rise higher than we've ever.
And you were there before Michelle Obama.
Yeah.
Well, Yolanda, I love you so much, and I cannot believe that our time is up. We are at the end of the show, but before we get there, I want to thank everyone for being here tonight. I hope you enjoyed the show. If you did, and if you don't mind, and you haven't done so already, please go to my website, richardskipper.com. Sign my guest book with your thoughts about the show. That helps to boost me in other markets. Also, I want to let everyone know that tomorrow night at 9 o'clock, I am going to be here with the one and only David Mayoko. And those of you who know David know that we're all in for a great treat. For those of you who don't, you're in for a great treat. I also end every show by telling everyone to go out and do something nice for somebody else without expecting anything in return.
That is so
now,
good.
what I would like you all to do tonight is I'd like you to go to your Facebook friends list, and I want you to go to the 8th name that pops up, and then I want you to go to Yolanda and Nanda, and I want you to order 2 copies of this book. One for yourself, and send this to the 8th person on your list.
Oh, that's so cute. That's awesome.
Spread it out amongst everybody. And Yolanda, I'm going to give you the final word. Anything you want to say about anything that we talked about tonight that you want to build upon, or anything that you want to talk about anything that we didn't talk about that you wish we had, or just any message that you have for anyone out there. And I'm going to ask you, I'm going to put you on the spot. Is your guitar nearby?
It is.
Would you, after you give your message, will you send us out with a song tonight?
I would love to.
I love that.
Let me grab my guitar. And that's so awesome. Thanks for asking. Well, what came up for me when you were asking is something that my friend Reverend Shonda Rule says. And she says, all life is one, and everything in life is holy. And she makes a chant. She goes, all life is one, and everything in life is holy. All life is one, and everything in life is holy. All life is one, and everything in life is holy. All life is one.
Thank you. Now, sing this out with a song. Everybody, Reverend Yolanda.
Why do you feel so out of place? So out of touch with the human race? You don't seem to understand why your brother won't lend a helping hand. Why do people tear apart your tender heart? Why does the nighttime seem so dark when the light shines inside your heart? We are angels, and we're struggling to be human. You tell me of the things you feel. You push away, then you pull me near. You tell me of your fantasy. I love the way that you speak honestly. Why is it so hard to love the one you've been dreaming of? Don't you see yourself in me? Don't you see what we can be? We are angels, We are angels and we're struggling to be human. We are angels. We are angels and we're struggling to be human. Time heals all pain. That's the way of the world. Time will bring you around again. Ooh, that's the way of the world. We are angels. We are angels and we're struggling to be human. We are angels. We are angels and we're struggling to be human. We are angels. We are angels and we're struggling to be human. La 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 la